Head gasket stop leak. Is it snake oil or a miracle in a bottle? Today we put it to the test. So guys, yes, I must say that the time has come. We have developed a small head gasket leak in the cheap Forester project car. $3,000 was honestly too good to be true. So completed the car, basically everything I wanted to do to it, and I've driven about 500 miles on the car, and two issues have poked their heads up. And that one is the head gaskets. We have a very small head gasket leak. We got the telltale overpressurization of the upper radiator hose. Lower radiator hose stays cold because of those combustion gases getting trapped behind the thermostat and preventing the thermostat from opening. Now, normally I would go ahead and pull this engine and do head gaskets, go ahead and reseal those cam carriers because we do have a little bit of leakage from those. But unfortunately, my new shop is still not built. We've just got the land cleared where it's going to go, but that's as far as we've gotten. So in the meantime, we're going to try out Blue Devil. I've heard a lot about Blue Devil online, and they're actually here local to me in South Carolina. I actually just called them up and talked to them on the phone to make sure that I do this the correct way, to make sure this test is accurate, and we can hopefully get this head gasket leak under control. Now, I'm not going to be selling this car. I would not put head gasket stop leak in a car and sell it to somebody. My mother has already laid claim to this Forester, although it's not white and it doesn't have tan interior. She wants it because she prefers it to my Crosstrek, which means I'll finally have my Crosstrek back. So in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and try the head gasket sealer to see if we can prevent that head gasket from continuing to dump combustion gases into the cooling system, keep it from overpressurizing the system, and prevent it from hanging that thermostat up where it will not open. So first things first, this is the Pour and Go. There are two different versions of the Red Devil head gasket sealer. There's a larger bottle with a yellow sticker. This is the Pour and Go. Now this is supposed to be formulated where you can just pull a little bit of coolant out of the radiator, pour this in instead, top up with the fluid, put your radiator cap on, let it idle for 50 minutes, and you're good to go. You can leave it in the system afterwards. You don't have to flush the system, etc. The traditional sealer in the yellow bottle, they want you to flush the system out, remove your thermostat, fill the system with water, top it up with the yellow labeled head gasket sealer. Again, return the cap, let it idle for a minimum of 50 minutes, drain the system back out, and put normal coolant water mix back in the cooling system. So we're going to do a hybrid version of this. I actually, as I said, just was on the phone, reached out to Blue Devil, talked to the product specialist, and what we're going to do on this is I'm going to drain the cooling system and remove the thermostat. The reason I want to remove the thermostat, even though it says you don't need to on the Pour and Go, is because of the way that a head gasket leak affects a Subaru. It prevents that thermostat from opening. I want good circulation of this through the system. I don't want it to be trapped in the engine block and the upper radiator hose. I want it to circulate through. So we're going to drain the system, remove the thermostat, put the thermostat gasket back in there and the housing back on. Then we're going to fill the system with water, top it with the Blue Devil, put the cap on, and run it for 50 minutes to an hour to make sure that it has had time to work. Now, a lot of people ask about these head gasket sealers, and Blue Devil is different from a bunch of other sealers. This is not a sponsored video. I know it might sound like it. I went to Advanced Auto Parts, picked this up myself. I did a lot of research on these sealers, and Blue Devil seemed to be the best at the way it goes about sealing up a head gasket issue. This is a free-flowing, clear blue liquid, and what it basically is liquid glass. Now, when you pour it in the cooling system, it circulates around without issue. It will not clog anything up like some of those stop leaks that have metal particulates suspended in it, and they're just thick and goopy and grainy and have all kind of junk in them. That's not what this does. What this does is it goes around, and wherever that leak is in the head gasket, wherever that hot combustion gas is coming into the cooling system and comes into contact with the stuff, it flash evaporates the liquid out and sets this glass. I say glass, but it's not technically glass. It's some kind of sodium silicate, something, but it's essentially what glass would be. So this stuff will free flow just like coolant through the cooling system or water. It will not clog up patches in the radiator. It will not clog up a heater core. It will not clog up the thermostat, anything else. The only thing it will seal is where it meets hot combustion gas and it flash evaporates the liquid out of the solids. Now, again, that's my untechnical explanation, how I have in my research found that it works. If I'm wrong, Blue Devil, please jump in the comments and correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So that was one of the main things that drew me to this in place of others like Bars Leak and tons of other ones on the market that use suspended metal particulates or other things in a fluid that could potentially clog up a heater core, a radiator, etc. This stuff is just a clear blue liquid. No issues there, no concern there. So enough talking, let's go ahead and get under the car, remove the splash pan, remove the coolant, remove the thermostat, fill the system with water, put our Blue Devil in it, and cross our fingers and toes and hope that this seals up this slight little head gasket leak. So we just pulled off the lower radiator hose to drain out the cooling system. Gonna let that drain out. And again, we'll go ahead and pull the thermostat after that. So Subaru says you've got to drop your exhaust manifold to get the thermostat housing. That's insane. And looky there, we did. No need to drop the exhaust manifold, Subaru. All right, thermostat's out. We're gonna put the gasket in there off the old thermostat, put the housing back up, put that hose back up, and we'll be ready to get going. All right, we've got everything back together. Let's go ahead and fill the cooling system with water. All right, we'll cut that off early because we don't want to completely fill the system with water. All right, we got plenty of airspace in there. So, as it said on the instructions, add to a stone cold engine. This car's been sitting overnight, not run, completely stone cold. So what we want to do, according to the bottle, is start the engine, again cold, and start pouring this in slowly. Once we got it all poured in, we'll top up the system with water, put our cap on, and start the timer and run it for an hour. All right, so we've got our heater control set to maximum hot. We're gonna go ahead and start pouring in the Blue Devil. So while we run out the clock for our idle time, I talked about two issues that came up in the last 500 or so miles of driving the Forester. One was the head gasket issue, but the second issue was the PO420 has returned, which means we most likely have a dead catalytic converter, or we have a contaminated AF sensor or oxygen sensor. We know that the head gasket has been leaking a small amount. That coolant could have gotten into the cat and contaminated it, contaminated the catalytic converter, or contaminated the AF sensor or oxygen sensor. So in an upcoming video, once we get this head gasket to seal, hopefully the Blue Devil does its job and it seals it up, we'll go through and figure out what we're gonna do about that PO420 code about replacing a catalyst or AF sensor, oxygen sensor. So guys, this is interesting. I just found out that our water pump is leaking. Oh boy. I assume the Blue Devil did not cause the water pump to leak. I assume it's been leaking and just happened to look under there and see it now. Well guys, with that, our hour idle is up. We haven't had any overheating issues, but the car has never overheated. It just had, as I said, the issue where the upper radiator hose would overpressurize and the lower hose would be cold because the thermostat wasn't opening up due to combustion gases. It has gotten dark on us, but you know, that is what it is. So I guess now all we gotta do is cut it off, let it cool down, and drain out the cooling system and top it back up with fresh Subaru super coolant. And we'll run it with the Lyle spill-free funnel in to make sure there's no more bubbling in the radiator. And looks like we'll be putting a new water pump and new thermostat in this car because yeah, I had no idea that the water pump was leaking. Hopefully it had been leaking and we just discovered it. Hopefully that Blue Devil didn't have anything to do with this water pump starting to leak. But yeah, there we go. So I guess we'll come back to this tomorrow. All right, guys, we are back. Day 2. Did the Blue Devil fix our head gasket leak? That's what we're gonna try to find out today. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna pull the lower radiator hose again, drain all of the water and Blue Devil out of the system. We're gonna refill the system with straight water once again, put a Lyle spill-free funnel on it, run it, and see if we've got any more bubbling in the radiator. Now, as I said in the video last night, I discovered the water pump is leaking now. There's evidence of leakage from the weep hole. I looked back through the footage earlier in the day, tried to zoom in, and I didn't see any evidence that it had been leaking prior to the Blue Devil being put in there. So looks like the Blue Devil did maybe cause that water pump to fail out of the weep hole. Now, I will say this car's got 225,000 miles on it. It's likely the original water pump, so it was probably on its last leg anyway, but either way, it's definitely leaking. You can see a trail of Blue Devil and water where it leaked out of the weep hole under the water pump. So it finished it off. If it was, you know, an issue, there it is. So we're gonna do the water. We're not gonna put coolant in it because the water pump's leaking. I need to replace that water pump. I need to put a new thermostat in it, and none of the 3 local Subaru dealerships have it in stock. So SubaruPartsDeals.com, A+ on the game. They've got it in the mail to me right now. So at a later date, we're going to be putting a new water pump, new thermostat, and we're also going to go ahead and take care of the PCV union and the hoses down here and the coolant crossover pipe O-rings. Might as well do all that while the cooling system is drained and open. And you know what? We'll be ready to go, hopefully, if this Blue Devil product actually did seal up that head gasket leak. So what we're going to do now, as I said, drain it all out. We're going to pour some water in the radiator, make sure it drains out the bottom, make sure the radiator's not clogged up, although I don't think this stuff will. And we might go ahead and pull the heater hoses and make sure that the heater core's not plugged, but I doubt it plugged it up. And again, we'll just see if we've got any more bubbling in the cooling system. All right, guys, this is what drained out of the cooling system. There's some greasy, kind of oily, brownish little chunks in there, but it's not solid. It's like slime. So not sure if there's some oil in the system. So now we've got the system completely filled, vacuum filled it with fresh, clean water. There's a couple little specks in here. That's from the Subaru coolant conditioner, the little flaxseed ginger mix. So fully topped up. Shouldn't be any air bubbles in the system. I say that as I squeeze up our hose. There's a couple little air bubbles. But we're gonna go through and start up the car, have the heat on, and run it till it gets up to operating temperature and see if we've got bubbling still or if the bubbling's gone. There's no thermostat still in the car, so there shouldn't be any airlock anywhere in the system other than maybe some air back there in the heater core or a little bit in the upper part of the radiator here. But it should work its way out pretty quickly with no thermostat and you know, the spill-free funnel being the highest point in the cooling system. So just started up. We got quite a bit of bubbling, but hopefully that's just some air trapped in the system from refilling it. Again, we'll run it till it gets up to temp and see if all this bubbling subsides. So holding the RPMs up to get this thing up to operating temperature without a thermostat is going to take a while. We're about 2,500 RPM. And that water out there is pretty rock solid. Not seeing any bubbling in it. If we could focus. You have to take my word for it. It's pretty daggum. Oh, there we go. There's bubbling. Never mind. So we're at 180 something degrees, close enough to operating temperature. We can come to a conclusion, and that conclusion is Blue Devil didn't do anything. It did not stop the head gasket leak. We are still getting bubbling in the coolant. Actually, it did do something because it actually wrecked our water pump. So not only did we waste the money and the time using this product, we also now have to put a water pump on the car in conjunction with having to pull the whole engine and do a full resale, head gaskets, cam carriers, timing chain, cover, upper oil pan, I assume, because it looks like there's a little bit of oil mixing in this water in the cooling system. So 225,000 miles, it's tired, it's old, it just needs a full reseal. On a positive note, we know now that our radiator isn't clogged up and our heater core isn't clogged up. Both hoses are hot and we do have heat, so coolant, water, etc. is flowing through the heater core. So At least we didn't gum up our heater core. At least we didn't gum up our radiator. Should you buy Blue Devil and put it in your Subaru? Based on this, I'd say absolutely no. It's a waste of time and a waste of money. So guys, there you have it. Is head gasket in a bottle snake oil or a miracle cure? Looks to me like a big old bubbly brew of snake oil. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one.